These are the most technologically advanced machines ever built. They were designed to protect the skies and deliver their weapons with ever-increasing accuracy and to remain undetected by their enemies. The New Mexico desert is the home of the most amazing machines on Earth, stealth planes. The F-117 was the first stealth plane. It can fly into dangerous enemy airspace and surgically strike at high-priority communications targets and airfields. Its highly angled body deflects radar. It is covered in radar-absorbent paint, and the heat from its jet engines is hidden from the ground. Holloman Air Force Base is the home of the F-117 Nighthawk.
Stealth technology on the F-117 is a combination of three things: shape, materials, and our tactics. The function of stealth is to try to evade enemy radars and threat systems that use radar.
The characteristic angled surfaces that identify the F-117 are what most of us associate with stealth. And it's these angles that deflect incoming beams in order to confuse enemy radar. The aircraft is constructed of classified materials, which help to make it invisible. They actually absorb the radar waves, rather than reflecting them.
Stealth technology and smart weapons combine to allow the pilot to fly his aircraft into the target undetected, deliver his ordnance, destroy the target, and then get home with the faith that he can do it without being detected and or shot at by ground threats. And as we saw in Desert Storm, we were able to defeat every target that we went after that we could get to through the weather, and not one aircraft was scratched by a threat at all.
The F-117s are flown by an elite group of aviators. They operate some of the most advanced computer systems known to man.
When I saw the airplane the first time, the same thought went through my head that went through everybody else's, and that's, does this thing actually fly? The F-117 was designed to deflect any radar waves that were shot at it, and then to absorb any other radar waves that weren't deflected. The exhaust of the aircraft was also designed to reduce the infrared or heat signature. The exhaust from each engine is spread out along the back of the aircraft and deflected upwards. The aircraft is also unusual in that it has elevons. The elevons control both the pitch and the roll of the aircraft. The computer decides how much of each to give the pilot.
To avoid the most dangerous enemy radar and missile locations, each flight plan is created by highly sophisticated computers. The data is loaded into the plane's onboard computer, which, if needed, can fly the whole mission completely unaided.
My first mission in Desert Storm was to attack 2 air defense control centers in western Iraq so that the coalition forces could gain air superiority quickly. Most of the pilots were very confident in the aircraft performance and that the aircraft would be able to do its mission. But there's always that element of doubt. You never know it until you try it.
Each F-117 carries 2 laser-guided bombs, targeted by a guidance system which provides a video image to the pilot, even at night. The F-117 is the most capable surgical strike aircraft in the history of warfare. The F-117 is stealthy, but it can only carry a small payload. This stealth plane is 3 times the size. This remarkable machine is where the present meets the future. The B-2 is the most highly advanced bomber in the world. It is also the most expensive, costing $2 billion apiece. %80 of the B-2 is built from composite materials, and the entire aircraft is a flying wing. The 4 engines are hidden within its body so that the heat of the afterburners can't be detected by heat-seeking missiles. It's incredibly stealthy, capable of penetrating enemy airspace and attacking with nuclear weapons. The B-2 flies at only 475 miles per hour. It doesn't need to fly any faster. No one can detect it. But stealth technology is not only for bombers. It has also been applied to frontline fighters. The F-22 is the stealth fighter aircraft that the U.S. Air Force is using to dominate the sky. The F-22 Raptor will be able to reach speeds and perform maneuvers far beyond the reach of the present frontline fighters. The key to the F-22's success is in its advanced composite materials. These absorb radar and give it the same signature as a small bird.
Even though it doesn't look enough radically different from all other airplanes that have been built, it is very much different. The engines, the airframe are all tuned to go fly around supersonic, and it'll be the most maneuverable airplane that's ever flown there.
Still in final development, its onboard computers are capable of making 350 million decisions every second. Its tail fin sweeps back behind the engines to shield the jet exhaust from heat-seeking missiles. To preserve its smooth outline, its own weapons are hidden inside internal bomb bays. Even its fuel tank cap is hidden beneath its shark-like skin. The highly classified cockpit is fully digital. 6 color monitors give the pilot a panoramic view, night or day. He also has a helmet-mounted display and will soon have 3D displays and voice control. The F-22 is a true stealth plane. It's invisible to the enemy and travels at 1,600 miles an hour. Most fighter planes can fly faster than sound for only a matter of minutes, but the F-22 can fly its whole mission at supersonic speed. It's the most maneuverable plane in the world, incorporating the latest thrust vectoring engineering, allowing it to attack at any angle. Jet engines are pushed along by their exhaust gases. If these are redirected by adjustable nozzles, the tail of the planes can be pushed round much faster. With thrust vectoring, a fighter can change direction more quickly. The F-22 will be the U.S. Air Force's frontline fighter for many years to come. The superplanes of the U.S. Air Force are designed to hit their targets without anyone on the ground knowing they were there. But there is a requirement for a jet that can provide close air support for troops on the ground and operate right at the front line, far from long runways. There's only one plane that can do this: the Harrier jump jet. The most experienced Harrier pilot in the world is veteran U.S. Marine Jack Jackson.
Well, when you walk out to the flight line to fly a Harrier, it's always a thrill, no matter how many times that I have done it, no matter how many times that you strap it on. It's just a wonderful, wonderful feeling that I've enjoyed immensely over the years.
And you're back down the other side. And you're pulling the power back.
Jackson has flown over 5,000 hours in Harriers, more than twice the hours of any other pilot. When he learned to fly the plane back in 1971, the training was highly unorthodox.
We didn't have two-seaters back then. We didn't have simulators even. Your instructor was in a pickup truck sitting below, and I'll never forget it. The first time I got it up, I got up in the air and I went, "Okay, God, if you can get this down, I think I can handle the next one." And the brief was, if your instructor came up on the radio and said, "Throw out your wallet," that meant you were about to crash.
Jack Jackson is now a test pilot at Boeing, responsible for testing out every new Harrier AV-8B.
This is the AV-8B. It's the second Harrier ever built, and we use it as a tech demonstrator here at Boeing. You look down the intake, and it's a huge engine. The engine is a thoroughbred. This airplane flies on the engine, very similar to conventional airplanes flying on the wingtips. If you look here, you've got auxiliary air doors, as we call them, a term that we use as aux air doors for auxiliary air. The auxiliary air is used in the hover, and it takes extra air in because the airplane is not moving forward to take it down the intake. Obviously, the next thing that you're probably curious about are the nozzles. In the cockpit, you may have seen a little lever about the size of my finger, and it's a black lever, and you move it back, and when you move it back, these nozzles swing down. This one here, and this one here, and there's two on the other side, just like it. And that's how she hovers, because when the thrust is going this way, it's going like that. Good example, take a blow dryer when you dry your hair in the morning, push the blow dryer here, hair's gonna go this way, put it here, hair's gonna go that way. Pretty straightforward. I like this airplane far better than any airplane I've ever flown, and I've flown lots in my time. But the reason I like it, it's the difference. It's like a sports car. It just fits around you. It's maneuverable, and it can do so much. It can do all the conventional things, yet land on your backyard. So I like it.
For takeoff, the nozzles direct the thrust straight down. As the aircraft lifts off, Jackson rotates the nozzles to horizontal for forward flight. The red areas in this thermal image show the scorching hot exhaust gases. 24,000 pounds of thrust blast the entire weight of the 9-ton Harrier vertically into the air. To land the aircraft, Jackson approaches the landing area like a conventional jet, but then he rotates the jet nozzles so that they point directly down.
The water is not flowing.
Once the Harrier is in hover mode, the wings provide no lift. The entire weight of the aircraft is balanced on the thrust from the 4 engine nozzles. In the thermal image, the puffer ducts show up as hot spots on the wingtip's nose and tail. While it's hovering, the engine is at full power. To stop it from overheating, water is injected into the engine. With only 150 gallons of water on board, the Harrier can only hover for a maximum of 90 seconds. The largest Harrier force in the world belongs to the U.S. Marines. The Marines are on permanent standby to land thousands of troops anywhere in the world. This assault force of 3 ships is led by the USS Saipan. It carries awesome aerial firepower, including 6 Harriers. The Marines are ready to launch an amphibious attack exercise 400 miles off the coast of Florida. The Harrier pilots will provide close air support for the troops.
As we're called, we'll be sitting on the deck waiting to go, and if they need us, they'll launch us. And with 6 aircraft on board, we'll be able to keep 2 in the air pretty much constantly. So we can provide almost continuous close air support for the Marines as they're assaulting the shore.
BLT gunners, draw ammunition and proceed to station. Man all 25mm and 50 cal gunnery stations.
I can, up and ready. I jet down the current fuel. The other choice is just being over here.
To get in as close to the shore as possible, the USS Saipan is a quarter the size of a normal carrier. The runway is only 220 feet long, and there's just one plane that can take off from here, the Harrier jump jet. Although the Harrier can take off vertically, when it's fully armed with weapons and loaded with fuel, it needs a short runway. A few minutes later, amphibious landing craft are launched from the back of the carrier to carry the first wave of Marines, whose task is to establish the beachhead. The Harriers fly in to wipe out key enemy positions and clear a path for the troops. Jump jets are extremely rugged. They can land almost anywhere.
The strength is that we can be forward deployed, we can land on roads, we can take just about any kind of fuel that you want to put in it. As long as we have somebody to put new bombs on our airplane, we'll take off again and be minutes from the fight instead of half an hour from the fight.
At the end of every mission, the pilots face the challenge of landing back on the carrier. The only way down is vertically onto a ship that's constantly moving.
But once you're in a steady state hover, the reaction control vents on the nose, wingtips, and tail of the airplane provide you some factor of stability while you're getting most of your thrust from the four main nozzles.
Since the appearance of the Harrier over 30 years ago, no other aircraft has come close to matching its vertical flight performance. But the Harrier still has a major disadvantage. It can't fly supersonic. The Joint Strike Fighter will fly at supersonic speeds. There will be 3 versions of this aircraft. The first will be a conventional takeoff and landing fighter bomber. The second will be designed to land conventionally on an aircraft carrier. And finally, the third will be the first vertical takeoff and landing aircraft that can fly faster than the speed of sound. Of the 3, the most difficult airplane to design was the jump jet fighter that will replace the Harrier.
It has been a huge technology challenge getting the airplanes that'll take off and land vertical. That's a reason that the only one you see is the Harrier. Pretty much all the others that have ever tried this have failed.
And the Harrier's replacement will need to have an even more powerful engine.
This generation of airplane is physically larger and weighs more than current generation Harriers. The primary reason is to get more mission equipment into a fighter to allow it to do more versatile missions. So the propulsion system needed to grow to be able to lift off a heavier airplane vertically.
Both the Lockheed Martin and Boeing Joint Strike Fighter prototypes have now successfully hovered. One of them will be chosen to replace the Harrier, as well as the F-16 and the F-18, in the largest military aircraft contract ever. The U.S. Armed Forces need air support as close to the ground as possible. This helicopter can operate much lower than any plane. This is the Apache. Top speed 210 miles per hour, range 800 miles, with a strike capacity of 20 tanks.
This is the U.S. Army's H-64A Apache helicopter, the #1 attack helicopter in the world today. Standard layout, long, narrow fuselage, pilot, co-pilot, and tandem, wings to carry wing stores, and then some type of either machine gun or automatic cannon under the nose of the aircraft.
The Apache is packed with some of the most lethal weaponry ever invented. Its single purpose? Seek and destroy.
The Hellfire missile can destroy any known armored target out there up to a range of 8 kilometers. Designated, guided by laser, the gunner puts a laser spot onto a target. The missile seeker sees that laser spot, and wherever that laser spot is, when the missile's fired, that's where the missile's going to go.
Bad weather and darkness are no obstacle. The Apache has an advanced all-weather night and day vision system. The pilot's helmet is fitted with a heads-up display monocle that feeds his right eye with infrared images from the sensors on the nose of the helicopter.
The co-pilot gunner in the front seat is able to locate targets at night using the infrared side, and in the daytime, the day TV, 127 power optics, which allows us to look at a great distance across the battlefield, find the target, engage and destroy the target.
In the cockpit, an array of invisible laser beams detects the slightest movement of the pilot's head, and the external sensors immediately move to match. Student pilots train by day, with the rear cockpit blacked out, forcing them to use the night vision system.
Trying a couple of hovering turns. Just do it slowly. Don't move the flight controls. Keep your eye on that line of sight reticle and that central symbology while you're turning your head. There you go. Remember that the axes...
The pilot has to keep his left eye on the cockpit instruments and his right eye on the infrared image.
Concentrate on not moving your arm, because that's all you've done is whenever you turn your head.
Right now I'm just having problems trying to see what's going on in the outside world and interpreting all the information that you have coming into this eye with the picture and the symbology, and trying to make control movements based on what I'm getting into that eye.
Over the next 12 weeks, the new pilots will learn to tame the raw power and abilities of the Apache.
Very awesome aircraft because of the power and maneuverability that it has. It's like about the fastest roller coaster you've ever been on, and multiply that by about 2 or 3, and that's what it's like to get in this thing the first time and fly it.
The unique abilities of the chopper to take off and land almost anywhere, to carry troops and weapons quickly to exactly where they're needed, have given it a special place in the history of warfare. In the technological warfare of the modern battlefield, avoiding detection is the #1 priority.
To survive on the modern battlefield, you have to keep yourself out of radar detection. And to do that, you have to fly low to the ground, in and around obstacles. We fly what we call nap of the earth, which is we try to get as close to the ground as we can We'll fly sometimes as fast as 140 knots, 5 feet off the ground in open areas.
Nap-of-the-earth flying allows attack helicopters to literally sneak up on the enemy. At this low height, there's no margin for error. But attack choppers are only one part of the armory. The Kiowa Warrior is the modern light cavalry. It's fast and maneuverable, crammed full of state-of-the-art reconnaissance electronics.
Fixed wing, 5 o'clock. Fixed wing, 10 o'clock.
It's designed around a unique mast-mounted vision system. This helicopter is the eyes and ears of the Army.
This is the mast-mounted sight, ET we call it because it looks kind of like a face. The television is here, infrared is here. It has a left and right range of motion 190 degrees.
The vision system's power and precision allows the Kiowas to track the enemy stealthily from a long range. It can detect and isolate targets up to 5 miles away.
Typically, reconnaissance is characterized by a lot of very slow nap-of-the-earth flying and hovering for a long time in a concealed position. And we can do that in a way that maintains our stealth by hovering behind some trees, a ridge line, and only exposing the mast-mounted sight above the terrain. Take a long, hard, sneaky look at the bad guys, and then develop a situation from there. It's a game of hide and seek, really.
When the targets have been located by the Kiowas, their positions are transmitted back, and the heavy brigade moves in. The Apaches take up their positions, hunters stalking their unsuspecting prey. Their first weapon is surprise. When the signal is given, they unmask from below the tree line in lethal unison and unleash their awesome destructive force. Within seconds, a fully armed Apache can destroy up to 16 tanks at a range of 5 miles. The Apache is the most formidable battlefield weapon, as effective as 20 tanks. But its successor, the Comanche, will combine devastating firepower with stealth. This is the shape of things to come. Its composite body shell is almost totally non-reflective to radar, light, and infrared. Despite its size, its radar signature is no greater than that of a large bird. Everything is internal, including retractable weapons. The Comanche is still being tested. A totally new military helicopter like this takes decades to develop. But its potential is enormous, and it already has its own squadron of pilots training on simulators to explore its unique capabilities. In virtual war games, Comanche can get 3 times closer to the action undetected than any existing helicopter. Before any strike force can engage the enemy, the battlefield commander has to know where the enemy is. The U.S. Air Force goes to extraordinary lengths to find out what's going on behind enemy lines. These U-2 pilots are about to travel to the very edge of space.
I'll be going above Armstrong's line, which is where the outside pressure gets so little that the gases in my blood would come out of suspension. My blood would basically boil.
These pilots are about to embark on a grueling 10-hour journey. They are hooked up to oxygen breathing apparatus and a urine tube. They will have to fight off muscle cramps, hunger, and fatigue. Their companion throughout the mission is the U-2. In the late 1950s, it was built to travel 15,000 feet higher than any Soviet plane or missile. Because it operates at such extreme height, it has to be light. Every extra pound of weight costs 1 foot in altitude. The fuselage is built of paper-thin aluminum. The giant wings are essential to fly at high altitude, where the thin air gives little lift. Its giant wings are supported by 2 small wheels, which are jettisoned during takeoff. Once, 57 Russian fighters were scrambled to unsuccessfully intercept just 1 U-2, and it is still considered by many as the greatest intelligence coup of all time. Taking reconnaissance pictures at 90,000 feet, it discovered missiles in Cuba, planes in Siberia, Iraqi tanks in Kuwait, and more recently, mass graves in Bosnia. The U-2 spy plane has to fly at the edge of space in order to evade detection and keep its pilot safe from enemy fire. The 10-hour missions are exhausting for the pilot. Even landing this unique plane takes incredible skill and concentration.
3.5, 2.
The next generation of spy plane has no pilot, flies relatively slow and low, but they are smart, high-performance machines, and they've already seen action. Meet the Predator. Indian Springs, Nevada is home to the 11th Reconnaissance Squadron and a machine that has already seen action over battle-torn Bosnia, monitoring ground movements while helping to enforce a ceasefire.
Good. This is our ground power panel. What this allows us to do is supply power to the unmanned aerial vehicle. All right, right brake is good. Once the air vehicle is up in the air, we use this C-band antenna. It's a directional antenna. Ready for angle of attack? Once we get out of the 140-mile range, we use this antenna right here, which is called the KU antenna. All right, ready for chin lift? Coming up. Coming down. The pilot sees what the UAV is doing through this camera right here. This cover right here underneath it stores the synthetic aperture radar camera. If it's a clouded day, it allows us to take reconnaissance through the clouds. Ready for tails, please? Up, down. This is the Versatron ball. This is the payload. This is what our whole mission is. The ball spins around 360 degrees. This camera right here is the infrared camera. What it does is it enables us to take pictures at nighttime. This is our spotter camera. It enables us to take real close pictures. It's got a 900 millimeter zoom on it. This final camera right here is our day TV camera. It gives us real-time video, 15 to 180 millimeter zoom. Give me nose wheel steering, please. Left and neutral. Completes my pre-flight. The aircraft is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you. Once checked and fueled, it's men like Major Duke Bender who actually fly the mission.
Predator provides us with the capability of going around 500 miles with about a 20-hour capability on station. We can't put multiple UAVs in the sky to give us 24-hour coverage over any single spot that we're interested in looking at. The GCS is the ground control station. It has two identical stations that you'll see at the front. One's the pilot station, the other is the payload operator.
Predator is fast becoming the eye in the sky for all American ground and air attack forces.
Go ahead. We have near real-time dissemination to the warfighter in the field. He can see exactly real-time what's going on around him, and commanders can make decisions based on real-time information. He can direct the sensor onto an object or onto an area that he wants to see, and then he can direct his forces accordingly.
It can direct forces on the ground. It makes it harder for the enemy to hide. It can monitor attacks and help direct troops and warplanes from thousands of feet above the battle zone. With Predators, you always have the element of complete surprise.
Got the shot.
Today's unmanned air vehicles present huge implications for the future of warfare, and this is just the beginning.
The future of UAVs is limited only by imagination and technology. We could use real-time imagery pumped into cockpits of aircraft going in on strike missions, even for putting weapons on there. Who knows? Whatever money and technology and imagination let us do.
So far, unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, have only been used for surveillance, but in the future, they could actually deliver weapons and replace the piloted bombers like the F-117 and B-2. Imagine it's a few years from now, and a hostile target needs to be neutralized. For this mission, 2 F-117s are scrambled purely as escort. Everything you're about to see is inspired by systems that exist today. You're at 45,000 feet and about to witness how smart technology could deliver a decisive strike to a specific point anywhere on the planet autonomously. This is Dark Star, a stealth UAV. On board are 4 small LOCAS self-guiding missiles. Clear of the danger zone, a single missile is launched, programmed for this specific mission. Scanning the terrain ahead, the missile searches for a match to the image stored within its memory. It knows its precise position, what the target looks like, and won't miss. The tank won't even see it coming.
Please strike base plus 20. Check.
Pinpoint accuracy means maximum damage to specific targets, keeping loss of life to a minimum. These military targets were annihilated from the safety of over 10,000 feet. The combination of stealth aircraft, like the B-2 bomber, the revolutionary F-22 Raptor, and the F-117 Nighthawk, all armed with smart weapons, has revolutionized air power.